Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram.
Hare Krishna, Vanamali, Govinda, Prabhu ji, Dandat Pranams.
Dandat Pranam, Venkatramana Prabhu.
Dandat Pranams.
Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhu ji, good. Okay, you are turning on video. Yes. Prabhu ji, you will be sharing, right, Prabhu ji, screen?
Is it possible for you?
Yeah, I can also do that. Yes, Prabhu.
I am operating from mobile, so not comfortable.
Sure, Prabhu ji. Hare Krishna devotees, we welcome all of you for the today's morning program, Nitya Bhagavathi Sevaya. And today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Vanamali Govinda Prabhu, and he will enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 31st chapter, titled Narada Instructs Prajatas, verse 11. Hare Krishna. Over to you, Prabhu ji.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you. My voice is clear?
Yes, Prabhu ji.
You can share the shloka. We will start with prayers.
Sure, Prabhu.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Fourth canto, 31st chapter, Narada instructs the Pracheta, shloka number 11. Shrutena tapasavakim vachobhischitta vrittibhi buddhaya vakim nipunaya balendriya radhasa. Shrutena, by Vedic education, tapasa, by austerities, va or kim, what is the meaning? Vachobhihi, by words, chitta, of consciousness, vrittibhi, by the occupations, buddhya, by intelligence, va or kim, what is the use? Nipunaya, expert, balena, by bodily strength, indriya, radhasa, by power of the senses. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanavind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities? The process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses. Purport. From the Upanishads, Mundakopanishad, we learn Nayam Atma Pravachena Nena Labhyo Name Dayana Bahuna Shrutena Yame Vaisa Vrunute Tena Labhyas Tasyaisha Atma Vivrunute Tanumaswam. Our relationship with the Supreme Lord is never advanced by simple study of the Vedas. There are many Mayavadi sannyasis fully engaged in the studying of the Vedas, Vedanta Sutra and Upanishads, but unfortunately, they cannot grasp the real essence of the knowledge. In other words, they do not know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then is the use in studying all the Vedas if one cannot grasp the essence of the Vedas, Krishna? The Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaishcha sarve rahameva vedyaha. By all the Vedas I am to be known. There are many religious systems wherein penance and austerities are greatly stressed, but at the end no one understands Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is therefore no point in such penance, tapasya. If one has actually approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he does not need to undergo severe austerities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood through the process of devotional service. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, devotional service is explained as Raja Guhyam, the king of all confidential knowledge. There are many good reciters of Vedic literatures, and they recite works such as the Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these professional readers manifest very good scholarship and exhibit word jugglery. Unfortunately, they are never devotees of the Supreme Lord. Consequently, they cannot impress upon the audience the real essence of knowledge Krishna. There are also many thoughtful writers and creative philosophers, but despite all their learning, if they cannot approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are simply useless mental speculators. There are many sharply intelligent people in this material world, and they discover so many things for sense gratification. They also analytically study all the material elements, but despite their expert knowledge and expert scientific analysis of the whole cosmic manifestation, their endeavors are useless because they cannot understand the Supreme Personality of God. As far as our senses are concerned, there are many animals, both beasts and birds, who are very expert in exercising their senses more keenly than human beings. For example, vultures and hawks can go very high in the sky, but can see a small body on the ground very clearly. This means that their eyesight is so keen that they can find an eatable corpse from a great distance. Certainly, their eyesight is much keener than human beings. But this does not mean that their existence is more important than that of a human being. Similarly, dogs can smell many things from a far distance. Many fish can understand by the power of sound that an enemy is coming. All these examples are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. If one's senses cannot help him attain the highest perfection of life, realization of the Supreme, they are all useless. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam, pangum langayate girim, yat kripa tamaham mande. Shri Guru Dina Taranam, Paramananda Madhavam, Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. We welcome all the devotees once again. We have Sankarshan Priya Prabhu, Venkatramana Reddy Prabhu, Dayamai Baldev Prabhu, Prema Priya Radhika Mataji, Radharani Mataji, Ravilochan Gaurang Prabhu, Saraswati Mataji, Subhamai Mataji, Uma Shankar Prabhu, and Venkatramana. So I seek the blessings of all my spiritual teachers and all of you assembled here, Vaishnavas, so that please pray that I can share in the line of Parampara whatever we have heard, I have heard, and for the pleasure of the devotees and for the pleasure of the lordships, Shri Shri Jagannath Balbhadra Sudramai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai, Shri Lakshmi Narasimha Bhagwan, for my own purification. So, as we saw the purport, Prabhupada is focusing on understanding Krishna, the main goal of doing anything, whether studying scriptures or austerities. So our whole discussion will be focused on trying to be the Sargrahi and not a Bhargrahi. So this is a short title which I thought of putting up, which summarizes and gives a gist of what we are going to discuss today. Trying to be a Sargrahi and not a Bhargrahi. So many a times it is observed that the bhakti can become mechanical and very painstaking, boring, or not enlivening, enthusing. One may feel stagnant in his spiritual life if he is not able to put heart and soul and do it with vigor, intensity. Tivrana bhakti yogena. So we'll try to discuss why this happens and how it can be avoided by the instruction of Narada here to Prachetas, which is very apt and very needed for a practicing sadhaka. So I am myself also a victim to sometimes and probably many times a very mechanical type of morning program. And recently when I was reading a book, Living Name by His Holiness Sachinandan Swami Maharaj, he also accepts that majority of my lifetime I have spent in chanting of the shadow name, just for teaching us that how we should not be succumb to such an activity of becoming mechanical in our bhakti process. So that is why he has given a very nice name called Living Name, not a shadow name or a dead name. So how to enliven our bhakti path by understanding the sar and not appear it to be a bhar. Oftentimes I hear an analogy given by seniors that if we have not relishing our bhakti, it appears to be very burdensome, as if we are carrying a load of 3 kg stone and running the race and our entire leg is getting bruised. So starting from the hearing process, as Prabhupada is mentioning here in the translation, that without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities? The process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses. So bhakti path is very simple. We have to just chant, honor prasadam, follow 4 regulative principles, and be in the association of devotees. But why it becomes difficult is because the intention with which we have to do, why we have to do what we are doing, becomes difficult for most of the sadhaka devotees. They are not able to maintain the consciousness. And that is why if we do an activity of, let's say, chanting 2 hours, but if we don't put our heart and soul, so we may get some Agyat Sukruti, 1 mark, 2 marks. But if we do it with our heart and soul, with proper consciousness that because my Guru Maharaj has told me, the parampara is advising this Maha Mantra, and for my own purification, let me try my best and be most attentive. So when this bhava is added, then we get 1 lakh points, 2 lakh points. So anyway, we are going to give that same number of time. Why not give an extra inch and build up the intention also? So just mere austerities, mere power, talent, which sometimes we may get carried away. Oh, wow, this person has got so much YouTube likes in his video or subscribers. So this is an external power, if which does not culminate in bhakti, understanding the Sara, Krishna, and love for Krishna, then it remains on a quite external platform, and we may lose our goal. So let us analyze some aspects of our common day-to-day practice of bhakti, which is hearing. Hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very, very fundamental. And in Srimad Bhagavatam Mahatmya, we have heard the story of Dundukari and Gokarna. Most of us, we have gone through that and heard it probably several times. But I feel like emphasizing the moral of the story to myself again and again, because the attention with which Dundukari heard after taking it a ghostly body, because he was very desperate, he was very hungry, he was feeling the pain, which if we are not feeling the pain of this material world, if we are not very desperate, if we are not in that devotional mood, then we will not be able to get the same benefit. We may get some benefit by hearing the Bhagavatam and sitting in the Bhagavatam class, some words, some things, but the benefit will not be so. And that is why Gokarna was approached by the villagers, that why did we not go back home, back to Godhead? Why the Vaikuntha Viman did not come for us? It only came for Dundukari. And Gokarna explained that he was very desperate and attentive. Probably we were not so. We were going and taking breaks. We were going and escaping here and there. So this kind of less attentive hearing may not generate the desired result. So then they requested for one more Bhagavata Saptah. And when that was arranged, everybody started taking notes, very attentively hearing, and many Vaikuntha Viman came to take all of the villagers back home, back to Godhead. So in our bhakti also nowadays, in the YouTube and social media prominence, the tendency is there, we may like some speakers and we may hear for our own nourishment because we prominently like it. But one aspect of hearing should be that we should hear from those whom we are serving. We should hear from those who are knowing us personally. Because those whom we hear on YouTube who are distant away, they don't know us personally. So they will not be able to speak the point which we require for our own nourishment, our own progress in the Bhagavatam class, because they are focusing on a larger unknown audience. No problem with the speaker, but problem with our attitude to only hear those whom we like. Because I like the speaker, I will hear this. So this tendency was being quoted by His Holiness Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj, that just by hearing audio lectures, we may not be able to make so much spiritual progress, rather than hearing the Bhagavatam classes more and more from them whom we are serving and who know us personally. So there is nothing wrong in hearing Bhagavatam classes, audio lectures, occasionally 25%. His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu gives a formula: 50% of our nourishment, reading and hearing can come from Prabhupada, 25% can come from our spiritual master, and the rest 25 can come from where we are inspired, and especially from those whom we are serving, because they are the ones who will be able to guide us, the service authorities, our counselors. They know us personally and they will be able to speak that in the class, and that will purify us. Rather than just hearing somebody whom we intellectually or on a mental platform appreciate, and may not be able to gather or benefit so much. On the other hand, we see that prasadam is to be honored. So it is not prasad bhog or kirtana bhog, but it is prasad seva, kirtana seva, bhagavata shravana seva. So when we come in this mood of seva and hear the Bhagavatam class, in a mood of serving the Bhagavat Prasad, in the mood of serving the deities by singing kirtan for them, then the entire consciousness is separate in what we are achieving or what we are receiving. Is it not? Hiranyakashipu did severe austerities. But what was his mood? He was very knowledgeable. He had the Vedic knowledge. He had the knowledge of soul and body. Not only Hiranyakashipu, but even Kamsa. He was giving almost a Bhagavatam class to Devaki and Vasudev before and even after killing the 6 sons, that this is because of destiny. Please don't be angry upon me and do consider me as the cause. This was to happen. So kindly excuse. So he was speaking quite philosophical, as if he knows the Vedic scriptures. But was he able to apply it? Was his character suitable for that philosophy? Philosophy without character has no value. One may be very, very nice in giving teaching good philosophy. So, but the essence, if is missed, Prabhupada writes in the purport that if one doesn't know Krishna to be the goal of the Vedas, love for Krishna, serving Krishna, then we have missed on the point. And in our scriptures, how many examples we have heard to understand this point of those people who have understood the essence, the Lord has been more pleased with them rather than the scholarly people. Anybody would like to quote some examples from scriptures? I'm sure you might be ready with many of them, which focuses on this point that the essence is more pleasing to the Lord than the structure and external scholarly thing. You can send the chat. Yes, exactly. Mataji has pointed out Cobbler and the Brahmana story. So many like this. The Brahmana Patnis, the wives of the Brahmanas who agreed to feed Krishna and Balaram when the cowherd boys approached. The South Indian Brahmana who was poor, almost not able to read Sanskrit. We can consider illiterate in Sanskrit, but still very, very firm faith in the Guru's instruction. And he won the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu over the scholarly Brahmanas who were making fun of him. Ambrish Maharaj, a simple king, but a devoted king, doing his responsibilities and engaging all his senses for the service of the Lord, was envied by Durvasa Muni, a great Muni, a powerful mystic Muni with amazing powers, but was taught a very severe lesson by the Lord. So time and again we learn this pastimes to emphasize on the point that don't get carried away by the externals and the ritualistic part of the devotional activities, but trying to grab the essence of the devotional activity. That is why Prabhupada also did not want to make it a rules and regulations society, a society filled with rules and regulations, but he wanted them to understand the essence. And that is why he was very, very compassionate in preaching, allowing the devotees to grow, to understand the essence and grab the essence. So how do we can get? Now we understood this point very clear, that the whole idea to perform the bhakti is to understand the sar and do, understand the essence and do. So if we do with that, then we get multiple points. Anyway, we have to do the activity, the same time we have to spend. Why not do with this consciousness to understand the essence and grab it? To understand why am I doing that? Even if I am doing any activity, who is there in my mind, whom I am pleasing? If we are doing that with that consciousness, then we'll get 1,000 points. Otherwise, we'll get 1 point of Agyat Sukha. So it is intelligence that we are anyway spending the same time. Why not spend with the same proper intention? So to get this always requires good sadhana. Sometimes we know this, 2-3 days we practice this, and the fourth day we forget it. Why? Because there is inner modes which are taking over. So that is why regular sadhana and regular association of devotees will make this emphasized and a priority in our attempt, and always on our marks to follow that. Otherwise, we will see that over a period of time, we may become angry and friction with the devotees can come and offenses can start growing. And we can see how the three Vedantists, they came to meet Prabhupada in Vrindavan, who were asked by Prabhupada, well, who is God? But they were not able to answer, or they told it is very difficult to answer that. But Saraswati, daughter of Malini Mataji and Shyam Sundar Prabhu, immediately she was always going everywhere and talking, Krishna is the supreme personality of God. And Prabhupada, she won the heart of Prabhupada, that she knows she is a real Vedantist. So Prabhupada also did some modifications of preaching in the West by going and traveling abroad, arranging marriages. But the whole point, why apparently he broke some principles of sannyasa ashram, but the idea and the intention was to propagate the message of the Lord. And so Krishna made him successful. Obviously, we have to be very careful, and in the name of Sara, we cannot just keep breaking the rules, but we need to always ask our superiors, and then it will be safe. But the point is, we should be understanding that. Otherwise, there is a story where a person is not able to understand the spirit of the law, but just trying to follow the letter of the law. Two elderly persons are coming to temple and removing the chappal in the car. And the watchman saw that they are removing the chappal in the car from far. There was one who was standing at the gate, entrance of the temple. And when they came empty, barefoot to the entrance, the watchman asked, where are your chappals? So they told, we have kept in the car. So the watchman is showing, can't you read here what is written? Jute chappal idhar utaro. You bring your chappal from car and idhar utaro. So he has failed to understand the spirit of the law. So that should not be our plight, and that can happen when our understanding is very clear, that how the Lord is functioning, what is the Lord's desire, and what are the scriptures telling from our senior devotees. So one example was that one devotee was asking in a Bhagavatam class that how does Lord reciprocate? Is Lord destined in his, everything is destined, and Lord has made the future of all the devotees stereotype, or he can change the future also. So we understand that Lord can change our destiny based on our bhakti and surrender. But how dynamically he can reciprocate is also very much emphasized from the pastime of Mukunda Datta, who was occasionally hearing Mayavad, and Lord came to know and he was unhappy. So that time when the turn came that Mukunda Datta was requesting to ask when will Lord will give darshan, Lord announced, tell him that he will get darshan after 10,000 years. Not happy with Mukunda Datta's occasional hearing of Mayavad philosophy. But then when the news reached him, what was the response of Mukunda Datta? We all know he jumped. After 10,000 years, I will get the darshan of the Lord. He caught the essence that yes, he did not say that why so much late, why for others fast and why late for me. But he focused on the point that at least I'll get the darshan of the Lord. At least I have got so much in ISKCON. I have got so much mercy of the devotees. So we can get easily focused on the positive things what we are getting, and we can overcome to not see the faults and not see the negativity aspect which is anyway there in the part of the material world. So Mukunda Datta, seeing his response, immediately Lord changed his plan and told, yes, now he can come immediately, bring him here. So he was given immediate darshan. So this very attitude and understanding the essence can help us make progress in bhakti by leaps and by bounds. Recently also when we were hearing our Bhakti Vedanta class, so a very nice discussion took place, which was very learning for me. So I would like to share that here. As all of you know, that there is one Premananda Swami Maharaj in Vrindavan, who is proper in the parampara of Nimbar Swami, Harivansha Sampradaya, and he is giving a mantra of Radhe Radhe, and many ISKCON followers are trying to getting attracted and hearing the lectures online, offline. So many counselors were asking the speaker that how do you explain this? ISKCON devotees going and hearing. So he tried his best and he told he's authentic person, but time and again many are going, and even brahmacharis are going and sitting in the ashram and hearing the class day in and day out. So is this okay or not? Such questions were coming. So then they were not very happy, or they got some answers, but then the speaker only felt I should bring Radheshyam Prabhu and also make them explain. So Prabhuji was explaining that yes, he is authentic person, but he's on the Raganuga platform. He is giving the instructions which may not be applicable for all the devotees, because Raganuga is only performed when one crosses the Nishtha level. So here, the whole discussion, I got an essence. What was the essence I received was that the moment we try and get proper direction from a senior devotee, we are safe and our approach is safe. He told that we should not blaspheme or belittle anybody. We should give full respects. At the same time, we should be loyal to Srila Prabhupada. We should be loyal to our Diksha Guru who has taken responsibility for us. And we should be serving him. We should be following him and follow his instructions. We can respect him. We can be appreciative of him. But it is our prime responsibility to be loyal to our parampara. So in that way, he very nicely solved the matter and the devotees were quite happy. And time and again, such incidences keep coming. Then what to do? Should we get into such controversial discussions? He told no, that if many ISKCON devotees are already speaking on this, just collect the YouTube links and share it to our followers or our people whom we are taking care, rather than we again spending time in such controversies. Why? Because we will miss our time on discussing Srimad Bhagavatam and the core knowledge which Krishna is here to offer us. So I felt very satisfied when I heard this. So I thought just to share that we should never miss out on the essence, and by associating with such devotees, senior devotees, will be able to come out of getting distracted or becoming a bharvahi rather than a sargrahi. And that is how we see that when one practices bhakti in the mode of goodness, that is the time he will be able to grasp what Prabhupada is telling here, to have devotion in all our activities. Even I was surprised to read 3rd canto, 29th chapter, shloka number 8, 9 and 10, where Kapila Dev is telling about devotional service to Mother Devahuti. So these 3 verses tell that how the bhakti is performed in mode of ignorance, passion and goodness. So bhakti is not in ignorance or passion or goodness, but we are in ignorance and passion and goodness. That is why the performance of bhakti may sprout out those symptoms. And what are those symptoms? The one who is practicing bhakti in mode of ignorance will become proud. He will become angry. And these are the symptoms which will come, and he will not be able to grasp the essence. On the other side, the one who is performing in passion, he will be in a fruitive mode. He will always have a motivation for what he is performing, and if that doesn't get satisfied, then he will lose enthusiasm, and he will start having friction with the devotees. He will have a controllership mentality. He will think that they are my subordinates, they are supposed to be controlled, and I am supposed to be ordering them and master of them. So this is a particular symptom of bhakti in mode of passion, and that in goodness is meant for purifying oneself. And when that attitude is there, that let me hear Srimad Bhagavatam, let me serve so that my heart gets purified, that is a very good sign. So when we do, these elements of hearing and kirtanam and engage our senses in devotional service with this mode of goodness, this is very sustainable. It brings harmony and it brings purification. So we need to improve our mode for sure. Prabhupada told, without coming to goodness, we cannot go to pure goodness. So in this verse, we can very nicely understand that devotional attitude is to be always have a priority. And what is the symptom? What is the proof that we are doing in mode of goodness? What will happen is knowledge will arise. You will come to know what is wrong, what is right. You will be able to apply scriptures, and in the long term goal, you will see that you are really able to analyze the things in the line of scriptures, and there will be purification of heart. Yes, there will be no cessation of material desires. Material desires will be still there when a person is performing bhakti in mode of goodness. It is not that the material desires will stop, but the amount of which it projects in our consciousness will reduce from where it was before, and the struggle with which, as I gave the example in the starting, that bhakti may appear very troublesome when, as if we are carrying a load of 3 kg weight, but when we perform it in the mode of goodness, having an attitude of purifying ourselves. Parikshit Maharaj was in such a mood of eagerness to know what is his duty, because he is going to leave his body. So that urgency and eagerness comes, and with that mood, when we sit in the Bhagavatam class, with that hunger, when we sit in the Bhagavatam class, then the purification happens much more. It will anyway happen, even if we are drowsy, but that drowsy hearing is in mode of ignorance. If we are not taking care in the name of services, we are just not taking care of our body, sleeping only 4 hours in the night, etc., and then sleeping in the Bhagavatam class, sleeping in our chanting. So that will become bhakti, but in a mode of ignorance, and the results will be very minimal. So Prabhupada very elaborately explains in 3.29.10 that all the 9 processes of bhakti can be done in mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness. So if we want to bring bhakti bhav, devotional attitude, then Prabhupada explains that we have to overcome all these passionate and ignorance tendencies what are coming in our Navadha bhakti. And when 9 into 3, 27, and combination of all these 81 combinations, and first of all, we have to make our bhakti path start. Those who are non-devotees are quite far. They have not even started in mode of ignorance and passion. Once we start, then we have to overcome those modes of ignorance and passion, and finally that will help us to reach. So it's a far process. It is not so easy, and that is why not many come into bhakti. But we have to understand the seriousness. Not that, oh, chanting karenge, 4 niyam palan karenge, 16 mala karenge, ho jayega sab kuch. No, Gaurang Prabhu was mentioning that now many devotees are growing, many temples are happening. Is bhakti become very easily available? Has it become very cheap? Yeah, we'll take the question. I'll just conclude my presentation. We'll just summarize, and then we'll take questions, Mataji. So Gaurang Prabhu was telling that many devotees are coming, many are wearing dhoti kurta tilak, many temples are opening, so bhakti has become, it seems, very cheap now, because so many are taking up. No, he told, bhakti has been made very nicely available by the mercy of pure devotees like Prabhupada and his followers, no doubt about it. But be careful, the admission process has been lowered down, or it has been made easy, admission in bhakti, but the passing criteria is not changed. Passing criteria remains the same. So the population in the college of bhakti is going to increase, because many will come, but not many may be able to pass. So okay, one way it is good, but we have to understand the passing criteria is always the same. We need to pay the price. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purushah param Kapil Dev is telling Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. Unless we do determined, intense bhakti, we will not be able to cut out on the modes. Modes are very strong. Devi Hesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya. So, yes, after understanding the intensity, we have to depend on the mercy of the Lord, whatever He gives us. But what will be the basis on which He will give mercy is the attitude. That is what we discussed in detail. We understood the SAR. Sometimes subordinate is trying to argue that so I know more than my counselor. He doesn't know this aspect of computer also. He takes my help to make a PPT, or he doesn't know software thing or this thing. Or sometimes some Sanskrit scholars come up. In ISKCON also, many Sanskrit learning people have come up, and very great caution has been given. I have personally heard from many devotees that many sannyasis or spiritual masters don't encourage devotees to go very deep in Sanskrit, minimal Sanskrit. Like Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj tells, just learn the word-to-word meaning of the shlokas, and you can learn Sanskrit like that also, and that should be sufficient. But some of them go very deep, and then what is the problem? The problem is we will start finding faults in Prabhupada. Oh, Prabhupada doesn't know how to translate this. I know it better. So this proud nature which will come, which will be very deleterious for us. There are two devotees, His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj and His Holiness, His Grace Gopi Parandan Prabhu. They were very good scholars, very deeply learned, and they are very rightly situated. So one senior devotee was telling that they are very good, exceptional. But not everybody will be able to follow in their path, to go deep in Sanskrit and also remain humble. So we have to be very careful that not to go in such scholarly attitude or finding fault attitude just by becoming technologically advanced or literature wise advanced, because Krishna is after all sargrahi. He is hungry for the bhakti bhav and not the external aspect. Oh, the number of views are more in my channel. Let me see his views are how many. Oh, he has 2000 views. My views are little low. Let me increase on my number of views. So if we get into this race, then there will be a problem. And Srila Prabhupada disciples, if we ask them what is their goal, where they want to go, they tell, I would just want to serve Prabhupada, whichever planet he is preaching. So this is the simple nature which they are carrying forward. So if we try to understand, just to revise what we discussed today, that the process of hearing, we discussed the Dundukari Gokarna pastime, that how Dundukari was attentive, which qualified him. Not only attentive, he was hungry. He was feeling the suffering, and he was feeling that now this is the only hope for me. So with that devotional attitude, when we do our Navadha Bhakti, that will give much more result. And understanding the essence, we discussed, we just not discussed, but enlisted the pastimes like Brahmana Cobbler and Amrish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni and South Indian Brahmana. That from this we learn that more important than the external aspect of the bhakti is the devotion which is appreciating to the Lord. And we should not get into like Hiranyakashipu or Ravana, who are very philosophical. They can give big lecture, but they are after all not pleasing to the Lord. And then we discussed Mukunda Datta, that when he changes his attitude, Lord also reciprocated equally faster. So we discussed that how we can be grateful whatever Prabhupada has given and be loyal to our parampara, and that gratitude, the attitude of gratitude, will determine our altitude in the bhakti. Prabhupada says in NOI preface that it's the attitude of the practitioner which will determine his advancement in Krishna consciousness. So with this humble attempt, please forgive me if I have spoken anything untoward, and we can take questions now or some comments on this topic which we just discussed. There are two questions already. Should I take that? One question, Prabhuji. So Suvarna Mataji is asking, as you told bhakti in 3 modes, so what happens to the bhakti if continued in a way to show off? Yeah, that is in a mode of passion. So first of all, based on this verse which we just discussed, akama sarva kamova moksha kama udarati tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purushah param. it is welcome. Bhakti in any modes is welcome. When we are approaching Krishna, whether in ignorance also, it is welcome, because after all we are connecting to Krishna. So in that way it is always good. But if we don't continue to put efforts to elevate ourselves from passion to ignorance or a passion to goodness, then what will happen in that passionate bhakti? That we may sometimes commit offenses because of the fruitive tendencies which we are carrying. We may try to get frustrated because the appropriate results Krishna may not give in order to purify us. And if we really neglect it, sometimes because of the offenses which are more grave than the sin, I have heard that Krishna wants to stop us from committing further offenses, and Krishna personally puts the material desires and he removes the devotee out of the association so that he will not commit offenses further. Not that Krishna is angry on him. Krishna was not angry on Shishupal also. Krishna was merciful on Shishupal that now enough of offenses. Now it is not good for you. Let me stop you here from committing offenses. And then Krishna will send us out. And then we will get kicks from Maya. Maya, they will really teach lessons. See, you are very good in the association. Now you get the kicks more and learn and become more humble, more grateful, more service attitude will develop. And that will again get back us in the association. And now with this lesson, with this teaching, we will not be in passionate and we will be inspired to remain in goodness. I hope that answers Mataji's point. If anybody would like to add also, can feel free.
Yes, Prabhu, Mataji mentioned, thanks.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, lines are unmuted, so you can also unmute and ask any questions or any clarifications required. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhuji, thank you very much for a very nourishing lecture. Of course, we will be very serious in devotional service. But one thing, especially hearing to Srimad Bhagavatam lectures, it has to be understood that the Bhagavata should be in disciplic succession. No, Prabhu?
Yes. Is it Balaji Prabhu speaking?
Yes, Prabhu. Balaji Govinda Prabhu.
Balaji Govinda. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Surely, Prabhu, Prabhuji is always very fixed up in the hearing process with very nice Kannada service also which he was doing in the temple. So it should be heard in the disciplic succession, and we have to, when we are following the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON, when we are there. So I have heard from the seniors that unless the follower does not get into the mood of Srila Prabhupada and his instructions and his books, his overall mood, because even Gaudiya Sampradaya is also there, which is there, but the mood of Gaudiya Sampradaya is different from that of Prabhupada. So till the time the ones whom we are preaching, they are not very nicely situated and protected in the mood of Srila Prabhupada, we should motivate them to be in one speaker, preferably, because even in ISKCON there are so many different flavors and there is a tendency to get confused. Some tell about Varnashram and all. So hearing in Parampara also, even in ISKCON, is motivated that after he becomes steady under one preacher, maybe for few months or few years, and then he can hear all the ISKCON speakers who are in Parampara only. They may have different flavors and he can pick up whichever flavor he wants. But initially, when he is just growing, not to allow him to get confused, he can be under one speaker who will grind him in Prabhupada's basic instructions, like we are not the body, we are the soul. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Birth, death, old age, disease are the main problems. Once the basics are fixed up, then he can go to multiple speakers within the ISKCON scenario. And if he is a very advanced one, then he may appreciate the good things in others, which may not be there in Parampara, but he will never be disloyal to Prabhupada's mission and our ISKCON Sampradaya. That is why many of the Maharajas, like His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, they tell to take vow during initiation that please take a vow that I will never leave ISKCON. So I hope that answers, Prabhu, or addresses what you are mentioning.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you,
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Very appreciable of Balaji Govinda's humility. I always aspire for that. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you, Saraswati Mataji, for your appreciation and encouragement. Hare Krishna. I am more, sometimes I feel I'm theoretical, but I try to like this opportunity to come in front of all you senior devotees and present so that all of you can keep a watch on me that this fellow is not getting deviated. Although I'm in Suratkal most of the times, less in ICC, but at least through this service, I can be under your shelter and get your prayers, request you for the prayers so that I can continue my services.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandas pranams to you. Can you hear me?
Prabhu?
Prasanatma Balram Prabhu is talking to us.
Oh, yes.
Are you able to hear me? Is my voice audible or is there an issue?
Yes, Prabhuji. You are audible, Prabhuji.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Wonderful
Thank you.
nectar. There's so many points that came up, which is very, very wonderful to hear from you. You said you are in Suratkal, but you're not just in Suratkal, you're in our hearts also, Prabhu. So very nice to listen from you. Just one small clarification I wanted.
Yes.
If you could throw light on. See, the aspect of anger and then of envy, we can understand with respect to the gunas. What about the aspect of, it's not anger, but then it is not envy, but then sometimes when there is any feedback or anything coming, we might conclude saying that we might trivialize it or we might just laugh it off, might not have those feelings, but then it's not having an impact. We are not accepting it. So the not accepting a feedback with respect to anything from a Vaishnava, and then we try to play it down a little bit, but then not accepting the feedback. So where does that come with respect to the guna? Is it passion or is it ignorance? Or is it goodness, but then only goodness where you're just not having those type of feelings, but then you're not taking the feedback?
Okay, very interesting question and making me also think. Thank you, Prabhu, for that question. Just when you are asking, I was just analyzing on whatever I heard on this aspect. It can be in all the three modes, depending on what he's thinking. I'll try to just point out the three aspects of those. It can be in ignorance and in passion if the person is at fault, surely, and he is not taking the feedback in the right spirit, or he's ignoring the feedback, or he's not understanding. He may think he's a junior and why should I take his feedback very seriously. If these are the modes in which he's putting the feedback down or not taking it seriously, then those feedbacks are surely in mode of either ignorance or passion. I'm not sure, but one of the two. But there is a chance of taking this in the mode of goodness if the feedback is not genuine, or it is sometimes feedback comes out of envy from the other person. So that also can be understood, because when sometimes a devotee makes progress, then many times a person is finding fault, and we can check with our seniors that Prabhu, the team of devotees whom I am serving, this is the feedback which is coming. Should I take that seriously or not? I'll just give you an example. Sometimes there are students who may tell that Prabhuji, but ISKCON only we preach only youths, or we preach only rich people. Is that correct? We are not addressing the poor. Or ISKCON people think that they are having the best philosophy and all others are wrong. So this is kind of a question rather than a feedback, but he tells that you people are also doing like that, the one whom we are only preaching. So we don't neglect this feedback, or we analyze it in two terms. If the person is in a proper way or receiving mode, then we can educate him, or he is in a more complaining mode, or he is not in a receiving mode. We know that he may not receive our instructions, then we just put it down. So that is the time when we just ignore the feedback. It may be in mode of goodness, because we know that he is not in a proper mood, and we cross check also. We don't decide, we cross check with our seniors that this is what is coming. Is it okay if I just leave it to that? And when proper time comes, when relationships improve, and that time we can clarify. So this is my small understanding. And I have seen many times many seniors, they don't correct only the juniors, the subordinates, because they know that their corrections will be not taken. We hear the principle, no, we can only correct when we have a good feeling for him, or we are on an authority position, or we know that he is going to listen to us. So uh, such people will also give feedback. But if our authority is giving feedback, those feedbacks should never be neglected, especially our service authorities. And these are very clear. We should never neglect them. We should discuss it out and solve it. But sometimes the feedbacks may come from equals, which are genuine feedbacks, but we are in a mode that we are not able to now address. We know our limitation. Because we have to be little compassionate to ourselves also. We can't be so much strict with ourselves that no, this has to be improved. We can just tell that that yes, Prabhu, I am trying to improve on that, but I need some time. So that can be a very nice way of replying rather than just ignoring. Because an equal is a very good way who can give us feedback. They will not feel bad. They will not feel that, oh, this is a senior person. And this is a very good way of improving. But in general, we should be taking feedbacks very seriously, even if it is coming from junior, equal, senior, and that is the way we can grow. But sometimes we have to ignore it, because there are people who are just in a mode of fault finding. So I think this is my limited understanding too. If anybody wants to add, then please feel free for that also. We have some 1 or 2 minutes more.
Thank you, Vanamali Prabhu. I think that was a very nice and a very important point that we need to apply in the practical perspective, because feedback we receive. I think one thing is that in corporate organization also we call it as feedback is a gift, right? And if material life, if you are handling like that in spiritual life, I think it is very important. But also, as you said, we have to be a little more compassionate to ourselves and not slaughter ourselves. So, but it has to be taken in the mind, and understanding that yes, this is where I need to reach, but I am not there, but I will make an attempt to reach there. So if we are able to communicate that nicely, I think that will help to keep the relationship intact with the seniors and other Vaishnavas. Thank you, Prabhu. Beautiful point.
Thank you, Sankarshan Prabhu, for encouraging. Appreciate.
Thank you again, Prabhu, for bringing out those wonderful points again. So that was nice, and then thought-provoking, food for thought. So worth dwelling on, worth discussing. So thank you for that.
I really like Prasanna Prabhu's way of talking to devotees. He puts the point very sensitively, very systematically. It feels like talking to him more and more. Thank you, Prabhu. Should we end, Prabhu, if there are no other discussions?
Yes, like we are very grateful to hear the nice class today morning. Like the title itself is like very good. We should be try to be the Saragrahi, not a Bharagrahi. And we have made very nice points. Anyway, we are spending the time. Why can't we put our soul and heart into that and then get the maximum benefit out of it instead of getting the Ajnana Sukriti? These are very nice things, Prabhuji. And also the questions and answers are like very thoughtful.
Thank you, Venkatramana Reddy Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We'll end the class with Vaishnava Pranama. Vancha.
Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
Ananda
की जय।
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji, once again for the wonderful class, and thanks all devotees for your active participation. Hare Krishna, Dhanvas to all. Now ending the class.